golfj.com.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Golf J podcast on golfj.com. I'm Jim Sinacropi alongside Rhett DeConey and the captain, Doug Brown, here inside the Finger Lakes 1.tv studios in Seneca Falls, New York. It's Monday, May 9th, 2016, and tonight we'll be talking about the Wells Fargo at Quail Hollow, won by James Hahn. A look ahead to this weekend's Players' Championship at Sawgrass, and what Adidas' move to sell TaylorMade means for the game of golf. If Jordan Spieth is looking for some sympathy after his Masters meltdown, he will not find it from Rory McIlroy. And as you can see, Rhett here back in studio with us after spending last week in California visiting Linksole and Evenroll and playing 3 different courses. So, how was it? You were out in California golfing at some great courses and meeting some, visiting some great companies.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was California. So, I mean, when you think of that, you think great weather, great golf. Southern California, San Diego area, one of the hubs of golf course product design and manufacturing. All kinds of the big companies are out there, and then there's all kinds of startups and some of the smaller companies too, and not only golf equipment but golf apparel and things like that. So was out there for a little bit. Got to spend some time at a new putter company, Evenroll Putters. They make putter. They have 4 different models of putters, and they have the technology what they call the sweetest face in golf. So they have kind of a sweet spot. And I brought.
Let's see it. You got it.
Brought the putter tonight. I'll show you. So you can zoom in there a little bit. If you see the center of the putter, the grooves are wider, and then they taper off at the end, going to the heel and to the toe. And what they claim is, and I found that it was true after getting fitted by Garen Reif, the lead designer and founder of the company, is that you'll get the same roll whether you hit it here off the toe, or if you hit it off the heel, or if you hit it right in the middle. You're going to get the same roll out every time. And before he fitted me, he showed me on the robot the way that it works, and he would hit one off the toe, and he would hit one off the heel, and hit one same velocity off the center, and each of them were exactly the same roll, the same distance, same line. Then he showed me with he had one of these putters without the grooves on it. It was just a normal milled face, and hit it off the toe, and it pushed it, and hit it off the heel, and it pulled it, and hit it in the middle, and it went straight. So it it's pretty interesting technology. He fitted me for one, and got me upright a little bit more, and customized this shaft to my stroke. And I will say that it did help me. The other thing that they do is they have some more counterbalance in the putter head, and then they also put 15 grams up in the top of the putter. So it's a counterweight putter, but it doesn't have the length of a counterweight putter. Some of those are a little longer and almost come up to your stomach.
It's not even on the market yet, right?
It is actually going to be. He took a bunch of orders for it at the show for pro shops and for some of the other type distribution points, but he's just now starting to be ready to sell them in his studio. His studio, he was actually studio was under construction. So he had the putting surface all done and that part of it, but his shop out front, his offices they're still working on those. But he's going to come on with us soon.
Yeah,
and
I can't
talk
wait
about
for
it.
that.
It'll be a great interview because the guy is Rife putters were what he had before, and he had some of the tour pros using that. Guys like Justin Rose and a few others now have started to use this putter. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes on tour when he gets a few of those guys out there. But then also it will be out to retail very soon on his website. You can go to evenroll.com, EVNROLL.com.
Without the E, second E, no second E.
Right, exactly. So see, Evenroll. Where is it?
You got it. You had it.
So you got one of these before the tour players got one.
I got it before a bunch of players got them. But
so.
I didn't expect to get anything like that. I just wanted to go talk to him a little bit and get kind of the history and some details about the putter before we had him come on. And he was gracious enough to take me back and give me a little fitting. And actually he has this neat little thing he also patented. It's a piece of felt basically on a little bit of aluminum tray almost. And you put that down. And he elevates you on a pad a little bit so you're even with the surface there, and the felt shows you the roll of your ball, so it shows you whether you're hitting it flush and rolling it sooner than later, how quickly you're getting the ball to be on the ground rolling true. And, it'll skip. You'll see little skips on it, and you just brush it back and you do it again. Pretty interesting way to see. And, I could tell that I was, a little bit back, and I was popping the ball up and not getting it down soon enough, so I wasn't rolling it true right off the bat.
Yeah.
So he adjusted me a little bit and started getting the roll out a lot better. So
some nice putting innovation there we'll be talking about in coming weeks. And you also visited Linksole, the Linksole lab.
I did. I went to the Linksole lab out in Oceanside. They, John Ashworth's new company, and I met with their head designer, Jeff Cunningham, and got to talk to him for a little bit, so that was pretty cool. Showed me all the designs for the fall line, which isn't even out yet, and in some of the spring next year. It's amazing how far out they plan this stuff. And he's going to come on too, because they've kind of had their way of doing stuff with some more muted colors and things of that nature. But then now they're getting into some more, not like the real bright colors you would see out on Nike or Under Armour, but definitely going with a different palette coming in the fall and next spring. But also staying true to what they want to do with a little bit toned down. So it'll be interesting to see some of that stuff. They've changed some of their fabrics a little bit. And they've got a lot of things planned for the next year. So it'll be great to talk to him, too. He's going to come on, and then maybe we'll get John Ashworth on, too.
No, that would be nice. Now, speaking of John Ashworth, you played Goat Hill, the course that he remodeled there.
Goat Hill, there we go, 1952.
In La Costa?
Yeah, La Costa. I played a tournament there. I was a member. It was just a member guest.
You were not a member, though.
No, but a couple members and a couple guests. It wasn't like a 2-day real member guest. It was just a 1-day deal, trying to get guys to join. I'm not going to be joining La Costa anytime soon, but I did have a nice time playing the tournament.
And then one other course, El Rancho.
Two more. I played the Bridges. Where are we over here? The Bridges at Rancho Santa Fe, and then that's where they had the old. Battle at the Bridges, Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, John Daly, about 12, 13 years ago. Tiger Woods, Sergio, where they would have it on a Monday night. And then, the last few finishing holes, if they got to those, would be under the lights. Oh, okay. So they did that tournament out there. And then Rancho Santa Fe Country Club, which was an older course, great track, classic course out there. So it was a great 4 days. I got to see and do a lot for sure, all golf related.
And we're going to be lucky enough to get some course reviews, get some product interviews, and some product reviews down the road here at Golf J. So,
absolutely.
So that's awesome. Glad to have you back, though. And with you back here in the studio, let's talk about golf. James Hahn wins at Quail Hollow. His second tour title at the Wells Fargo Championship after missing 8 straight cuts heading into the week. Brownie, how can you go from missing 8 straight cuts and really, if you look at all the players on tour over that 8 weeks, he was one of the worst. Right. And now he comes back and wins.
So, there's obviously a fine line between missing the cut and winning a golf tournament, right?
I guess so, yeah.
A shot or two a round over 4 days, or some cases 2 days for the cut. It shows how, how fickle the game is.
No doubt.
If he makes a 60-footer, he might make the cut, and instead he 3 putts from 20 feet or something like that, right? And misses the cut. His confidence had to be at an all-time low going to this week. It's shocking to win a golf tournament. It would have been, surprising just to contend in that environment.
And a tough tournament too.
Yeah,
this is a
tough golf course,
major field, and
the last 3 holes will kick anybody's butt.
Yeah, the Green Mile.
Yeah, so it's shocking.
And it also feels good because, after 8 straight missed cuts, you started to think, I'm not cut out for this kind of work anymore. And, you got to be thinking about losing your card and everything. And then just to win, it's the exact opposite.
His interview at the end, go back to selling shoes.
Yeah,
right.
He was a shoe salesman.
Which country club am I going to be tour pro at, or head pro at?
Yeah.
So he's now 26th in the FedEx Cup standings and he's also reached his highest world golf ranking of 55. He's the only player to win at both Riviera and Quail Hollow, and the reason that's significant is those are both 2 major championship venues. So with those being his wins, he's got to have confidence that he can compete in majors, U.S. Opens, and PGA Championships.
Yeah, PGA's at Quail Hollow next year, right?
Yeah, and they're going to make some course changes too, which I thought was odd because I think the course played great, 10 under 1, and it wasn't conditioned to be major championship condition. So you think if they let the rough grow, speed up the greens, that 10 under might be 5 or 6.
Well, especially with that finish.
Right, there's some banks around those ponds that could be mowed down as well that would have kept no golf balls from rolling into them.
Sure.
Because they had some decent-sized rough there on some of those banks.
Yeah. How about that shot Castro hit? On the,
quite a shot.
It was on 18.
Yeah.
In the playoff?
Yeah.
Yeah, the second shot after he dropped from going in the creek. Yeah.
Man, that was a great bogey he made there.
Sure was.
So, that's the other thing, too. Hahn and Castro, not really your two premier names with so many great golfers, nipping at their tail. Like Ricky Fowler held the 54-hole lead, shot 74, finished fourth, 2 shots out of the playoff. Only 9 of 26 third-round leaders and co-leaders on the PGA Tour this season have been able to convert the win. And we talked about Ricky maybe 2 weeks ago saying he might be the most overrated player on tour, but he's obviously playing pretty well. He has to have the best attitude maybe on tour because no matter what happens, he's always able to shake it off and move ahead. And now he's going to defend his championship next week at the Players. Right. So good to see Ricky. Well, not good to see Ricky blow the 54-hole lead, but, I wouldn't be surprised to see him defend at Sawgrass. And then you got Justin Rose, finished 1 shot out of the playoff. He switched to the claw putting grip after the Arnold Palmer Invitational, but putting honestly kept him from easily winning the title. He hit 14 of 18 greens in the final round. Lost 3.8 strokes on the greens, though, on Sunday. Wow. So that's just a situation of a guy just striking it. And
he missed a cut the week before. Yeah. In New Orleans.
Yeah, and again, with the putting, he's maybe he might want to visit the Eden Roll Studios.
Hey, Garen will hook him up.
And then
he knows him well.
He knows Justin Rose?
Yeah.
No good.
Yeah, he's worked with him.
Well, he might want to work with him immediately.
Yeah, like today.
And then this is great, I think. You have Rory McIlroy, Phil Mickelson, both shoot a 66 on Sunday, finishing 4th. Now, there's the 2 heavyweights that coming up into the heart of the major golf season, especially McIlroy. And what they're saying about McIlroy is if he hits the ball really well, he can contend, but he's just not as good a putter as the Fowlers and Days and Spieth. And
he's pretty much run away with all his major wins. He hasn't really had to rely on his putting.
He made every putt, though, in a couple of those tournaments.
True.
I'm kind of surprised he putts as poorly as he does this year.
Because we've seen him do it before, putt well before.
Yeah, putt very well. All of a sudden, go left-hand low. He might go left-handed here before too much longer. I don't know.
Yeah, well, both he and Rose making some major changes, which it's always amazing to me on the PGA Tour. Whatever putting method you've used to get you there have obviously worked okay. You're a top 10, 15. How you can just make dramatic changes and still be able to compete, I guess. Putting's just a strange part of the game.
I just wonder why these guys, feel like they have to change so much when they've had so much success. And I know you always want to try and get better, but I don't understand why they think that they're not where they need to be. You don't know what's going on inside their heads or who's telling them what, but you just wonder why somebody changes so many things on a putting stroke. Like, you're going to make putts some days and you're going to miss them, but generally you got it figured out with your stroke. If you have the pretty good stroke, you're going to be close to the hole and you're going to get something to go in. I just don't understand why they feel they need to change so much. Guys like Fowler and all these bigger names. Obviously Adam Scott had to, and some of the other guys had to based on the rules. But a guy like Ricky and a guy like Rory just doing what they're doing, I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, I think they have a couple of tough rounds, and maybe they play with somebody that had a couple of good rounds, and they figure they're doing something different, so I'm going to try to copy them.
Yeah.
Or they go out and buy a new putter because anybody who's got a new putter putts very well.
Right.
Okay, usually get a new putter every week.
Right. But like the claw grip, I'll start out with more of the senior guys who are using that claw grip. The Marco Miras, Calcavecchia, those guys, and now it's got into the younger guys.
Yeah.
So maybe they think somebody's onto something.
Sure.
So I got to keep up with my competition. But putting is half of the game for those guys or more, and they're trying to have 28 putts around or whatever. That's where they got to compete. Yeah. 28 to 30 putts, 1 shot around, 1 shot a tournament.
Right.
Well,
what do you guys? From your standpoints and your games, what I mean, Jim, you're pretty consistent with your putting stroke there, and as far as what you do, and if you're missing or making, you're still pretty much using the same stroke. Doug, I'm not, I don't know how much you tinker or not. But
I think you're talking to the wrong two guys, because I think in the
I
past
tinker more
couple
than
of
anybody.
years,
I got a left-handed putter at home. I got that face-forward putter.
Yeah.
I've got blades. I've got pings.
I haven't played as much with you, though, so I don't know. You tinker more than
could go left
the
hand
average
low,
guy.
split grip.
well, it's the same thing if we bring it down to our level in our micro tour, like Seneca Falls Country Club where we play. I think of it as like a micro tour. We have our majors, our big tournaments, the club championship, and guys that contend and guys that have won. So there's a history there, and you've won four club championships, and so it's the same thing. He's won 4 club championships. Why wouldn't he just putt like he did in those? The same way he did in those 4 was obviously good enough to win.
Sure.
Well, I think you change a little bit each day, so things are different. It feels heavy, it feels light, whatever.
Right.
Confidence is a big thing, and I've had streaks where I haven't been confident, so you change it.
Yeah.
You go get something to look. We talked about it last week.
Different
It's
look.
that bag, go get a different look, right?
Yep.
And I've done it historically, so.
Yeah. I've tried to do those, left hand low or the claw and things like that. I just never feel right. I just always go back to the way I've always held it. Now he did get me standing up a little bit more and holding the putter getting a little, more upright. But, other than that, it's just the gripping, I just can't change. I've tried it and it just doesn't feel good.
I don't think I make as dramatic changes as Doug's made with the different styles of putters and even different grips. My putting change is more, if I've been set up square to it, I'll open it up. I might try forward pressing it.
Yeah.
And then when I find something that works, I stick with it as long as I can. And then after a couple of rounds of that not working, then I might close the stance up again. Right. But I think, I really don't make many major grip changes or even equipment changes. I have probably in the past 20 years, I've probably used 3 putters, throw away the random 1 or 2. But so just subtle changes to get me to see the line. And I putted well on Saturday for the first time this year. And I shot a 78 with a couple double bogeys. And it was all putting. I just made the difference between 78 and an 84 is I made one long putt and 4 or 5, 7, 8 foot putts.
So come Wednesday night, will you putt the exact same way as you did on Saturday?
Oh yeah, I will.
You think you will, but will you?
Well, right. Who knows? My equilibrium might be off. The ball might be a quarter inch farther away from my foot. Right. So there's all these little things that could throw you off. But in my mind, I'm in that zone now where I'm going to be putting well, and that could change by the 3rd hole.
So you know your approach anyways.
Right.
Gotcha.
So.
And I say I don't change much, and here I am this year. I'm not even looking at the ball when I putt. So.
Well, a couple of times you get a couple of real bad putts, then you will change your stance or your grip this or whatever. So, I mean, if you catch a couple edges, you're not going to make any changes.
Yeah, right.
Well,
you just feel like
that's the key too.
But putting's the most fickle part of the game. You watch the professionals; they're all different. On any tour you look, there you see all kinds of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, and nobody can say anything's right or wrong on the putting green. It's because it's just a simple act of rolling the ball on the green, so you can do that so many different ways without it. Whereas there's only so many ways you can hit a golf ball 320 yards. You can't take too many different approaches other than So, well, one last note on the tournament at Quail Hollow. Jason Gore had quite a weekend. 83-65 en route to a 41st place finish. 83 on Saturday, 65. Just had to throw that in there. But the other big news, really, of the week came from kind of the business world as Adidas announced that it was actually Herbert Heiner, the CEO of Adidas Group, said TaylorMade is a very viable business. However, we decided that now is the time to focus even more on our core strength of athletic footwear and apparel. So they're selling TaylorMade, they're selling the Ashworth brand, and Adams. And, the announcement that they would, retain the Adidas golf brand, but just keep that in shoes and apparel, just kind of says something, I think, about the golf club, industry, I suppose, that a brand like TaylorMade is something that somebody would want to spin off because they don't see growth in it, or they don't see enough growth, is what that would lend somebody to think. Otherwise, why wouldn't they keep it?
Yeah.
They just bought it, how many years ago?
I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I guess. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. TaylorMade's one of the ones too where you look at the business where they're not changing, but they're rolling out new stuff. Seems like every 6 months. Where some of the companies, kind of try and get a little more stable product line and don't change it too much from time to time. You may see a different putter every year or some new stuff, but even that, they just seem to have a new driver every time you turn around, and they're rolling something else out, whereas like a Titleist or somebody like that is, I remember the DCI line of Titleist irons was, probably 10 years, and AP 1s and 2s have been out for quite a while. But, maybe they don't see eye to eye with the
I think they expect that somebody to buy a new $400 or $500 driver every year or two, $400, $500 driver. And, I brought in my King Cobra BioCell 3 wood that I'm going to do a review on.
This is a new one this year, right?
Yeah, and the reason I brought it in for this conversation is that I bought this off of Amazon.com, brand new for $79.99. And I wanted to add a 3 wood to my bag this year, and, I was looking at the Titleist, the TaylorMades, and, they're $250, $300, and I said, this BioCell that's on here for $80 can't be that bad of a club. And, honestly, once you get it in your hand and you get one of those more expensive ones, what is the difference? What is the Titleist 3 wood, for example, have that this BioCell doesn't have? It's the same materials. I think that's the problem. I don't think as many golfers, there's less golfers now than maybe there was 20 years ago buying the stuff to begin with. And I think of that, the golfers that are remaining, not all of them are willing to, dump $2,000 into their bag. So, and I guess I'm one of them. But I figured, geez, for $80, I'll order this one. If it doesn't work out, then I'll go get the more expensive one. But you know what? I like the club, and I just can't see that much difference between this and like TaylorMade's newest 3 wood.
Well, if you go to Dick's and you go through 3 or 4 sets of irons, and you're trying them all out, and how much difference do they really feel when you're hitting them? I mean, I can't imagine they feel much different to anybody. It's probably the only time that really makes a huge difference is when you're getting fitted. If you're getting them custom made to you, where the lie and the upright are is custom to your size.
It's personal preference when you pick a club.
So if you're just the $80 club compared to the $250, if you're just getting a club, if the $80 club feels good in your hands, and you hit it down the middle, what's the difference?
Well, Doug, what do you think? You have a Titleist driver that you use for 8 years.
Yeah, I got a 907.
And as do I, and I still use that. But you have a newer Titleist. I have a
915 as well, but I'm really not using it right now. I'm using a 907.
Still using the 907.
Yeah.
And now, if somebody put the newest TaylorMade in your hand, do you think you'd hit it farther than the 907?
No. I think the engineering aspect has probably gone about as far as it can go. The size of the head is about as far as it can go. I don't know how much. If they made a $700 driver, you're not going to hit it farther or straighter anymore. I think it's about as far as it can go. And now they've got it. They got the price point pretty high. I guess if they bring the prices down right now, you'd probably think the product is junk.
Sure.
So maybe people stay away from it. So they probably got to leave that at that height, that level for a while.
And if they're selling less, they need to make more off of what they're selling.
Right.
They need to make a pretty high profit margin on those.
I think it's like you said, Jim. I think Adidas probably saw that they maxed out their profit margins on this company, and if they were going to ever get any money for it or sell it at a hefty profit, it's probably right about now. Otherwise,
Adidas really an equipment company, or they've always been like sneakers and apparel and until they bought TaylorMade.
Yeah.
I don't know what else because they're a foreign company.
Yeah,
they're not a U.S. based company.
No,
right.
All shoes and apparel until they bought TaylorMade.
They don't make baseball bats or
no.
I don't know.
Bats they focus on basketball and Well, it's like FootJoy. You don't see FootJoy trying to make drivers. They make shoes and gloves, and that's pretty much.
But their parent company has all that.
Right.
They're under that Titleist umbrella with the. There used to be
true.
American brands, but that's been sold too.
I think probably with Adidas 5 and 6 years ago, it was probably, let's not kid ourselves, to keep up with Nike. Nike, makes clubs now, and they have done pretty good with it. They have some good sticks. Their irons are pretty good, and their driver's gotten a lot better. Their ball is not bad. You got to imagine that was the goal of beginning. There was to acquire a company to make clubs to compete with them. It doesn't sound like it's probably worked out. I think they've pretty much figured it out that that's not their business. And
I guess the thing that's shocking, though, to the average golfer is that I thought it had worked out. I mean, TaylorMade, when you think drivers, you think TaylorMade makes probably the best drivers, right? Maybe not so much with their irons, but anything with a metal wood head on it, you kind of think that they're kind of the class of the driver world, I suppose. So
you can tell on tour when somebody has one with that white head. They've done a good job with marketing their brand with colors. Remember the bronze-colored,
the bubble
shafted one that had the bronze head?
Yeah.
You could tell that on television was a TaylorMade, 15 years ago. And now this white one, they broke that mold and made a white driver, and you can see, 30 or 40 of those on a weekend when
and used. It's not the Titleist is stuck with the black head,
right.
And TaylorMade has really aesthetically, like you say, made some changes. Now, just a couple of years ago, they came out with rocket balls.
Yes.
That was like their big thing, and now that's kind of old, and
M1 and M2 now.
Yeah, so
right.
It's hard to keep track.
The slider, the M, the rocket ball, the bubble, they
have more models than anybody else.
Oh, no doubt.
Well, that's the thing. Though. It's like, why do they make so many different models? I mean, is the other guys
trying to catch fire?
Yeah, I guess. But does that maybe that speaks to it a little bit that,
Yeah, and if the bubble shaft was such a technological breakthrough, then where is it now? Nobody ever improved upon it.
Nobody copied it at all.
No. Yeah, and so now I think with the golf clubs too, like you said, Doug, they have maxed out the technology, so now they look for tricks like the adjustable, the slider, left or right draw, and the adjustable clubs are all the rage now. And Rhett and I were talking before the show. We own a couple adjustable clubs, and what I set it at the day I bought it is what it's still at. I never really tinker with it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a gimmick because the technology's maxed itself out.
It does give you a range. If you had, both of you guys had brand new TaylorMade drivers with all that adjustability, you would probably have different settings.
Right.
It wouldn't be identical. So we could put that driver in both of your hands and get away with it. Where the old days you couldn't do that.
True.
But again, once you get it set for you, you're probably not going to change it. That would make sense.
So why not just get fitted for something, or get the 2-degree closed or 2-degree open or whatever it would be? But
you can do it all on your own.
So it's just, I think it's wildly interesting that they are selling this company, and what the future of golf equipment holds, because I think we all can agree that the market just got a little oversaturated over the last 10 years. Except for, like you say, Brett, Titleist.
Yeah.
I wonder if somebody'd buy that. Titleist sold Cobra years ago.
Right.
And Cobra's not as big a player as they were now.
It's almost like eliminating a competitor.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I did. For the, when you're talking about the mainstream guys, to me, Titleist has always been as solid as it gets. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you're using a driver that you got 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. I have a Titleist driver in Woods that I got mine 3 years ago, but I had one before that. And you have one, Jim, that's, you have the 909, I have the 910. You have what, the 907?
907.
I have a 907 and a 913 or 915.
But even those, when you get I have one that's even older than that, that's about 3 wood size that I still have. My wife uses it now. But it's like they all still basically feel the same.
Yeah.
Like, on my best drive, I'm hitting at 250, right? Occasionally a little farther. But so if I get a new driver now that's the latest Titleist model, or it's a TaylorMade model, or the latest Nike, I'm still going to hit at 235, 240.
Yeah, I think there was a time.
It's not going to change much for me.
I think there was a time, probably around the mid-'90s, where you could buy a new driver and you'd be like, wow, I never hit a golf ball that far before.
Sure.
Right.
But those days, I think, are over.
When the Big Bertha first came out, you definitely noticed the difference, because that was one of the ones that, the bigger size, and, it definitely popped a lot more than your old Persimmon or whatever. But, now, I think it's definitely...
Yeah, when they got that thin titanium face that had a little spring to it.
Right.
And, of course, at the same time, the golf ball was really changing.
Yeah. No,
So,
what was the one Daly first hit when he came out, the Wilson, the whale? It was like
Was it red? Was it red?
Red shaft with the white head, remember? It had
it was
big...
Kevlar.
Yeah, Kevlar.
It was a
That's what
Kevlar
it
head,
was.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. And
That's the one the PGA with.
Yeah, and that sounded so weird because
Yeah.
it just didn't have that ting on it. It was
Yeah.
just like hitting with ceramic or something.
Yeah. And that never
No.
took off.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where that brand lands and what the future holds for their product line. Hey, time for the Golf J Trivia Challenge here. Tweet your answers to @thegolfj on Twitter. First person to tweet will win a Golf J hat. And question this week is, who won the inaugural Players Championship in 1974, and what course hosted the event? Because it wasn't always at Sawgrass.
I think the what course is harder than the who, but it's a good question.
Yeah, because just given the time period, you could probably guess,
Yeah.
a pretty good guess. But we need the winner and the venue that hosted it, and we'll give you the answer at the end of the show. So,
Yep.
I was golfing with Ed Boudreau this weekend, and on the 18th tee, maybe after struggling with his driver, he hit a really good one, and he said, I got on my left side that time. So as we were driving up the fairway in the cart, I'm like, what do you mean, when you say you got to the left side? And he's like, well, I got my weight on my left side, at the right time. And so my question was, well, like, what's the sequence? Like, when do you want to get on your left side? Is it before the club hits the ball? Is it as the club hits the ball? I just wanted to understand kind of what he was talking about. And for him, it was before. And so that made sense to me. And I'm usually not a guy who likes to get too mechanical with the swing. I kind of like to play the whole game by feel if I can. But I went home, got on YouTube, and started looking at some getting weight transfer type of videos. And what I found is that you bump the left hip first. So you start your downswing with just a slight bump of the left hip, and then the hands come down, and then as the ball hits the club hits the ball, everything else goes through your left side. So you initiate that movement from right side weight shift to left with a little hip bump. And before the show, when I told Doug about what I was looking at, he said Lydia Ko is a great example of that.
Right. I think if you could watch a video of Lydia, because their swing's a little bit slower so you can see it compared to Jordan Spieth or a Jason Day, for example. But Lydia kicks that left hip out very noticeably. And she's a machine as far as striking a golf ball.
Is the first move
Yeah.
on the downswing.
Right.
So when you have the club parallel or where you're at the top of your backswing, what's your first move?
I don't know. I just think about hitting it hard, I guess. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I know that I'd like to think it's coming from the ground up, because you don't want the top swing from the top.
Right.
Right? So if I get wild, I know it's coming from the top, and that's where the problem starts, because I'm trying to hit it hard. So if you take a couple seconds and slow it down a little bit, your swing will start from the bottom up, which is usually your left foot is going to go to the ground. If you get it up on the way back,
Yeah.
your left heel will go down, which will start that hip motion. I don't know if I kick my hip out, but you try to get your left hip out of the way, in my mind. But Lydia definitely kicks it out like Eddie was talking about.
Yeah, and it's you almost don't want to think too much about this stuff because you want it to
Right.
be natural. But what do you, when you have the club back, what's your first move on the way down?
Most of the time, I'm trying to focus on keeping my head still. So I find that I move a little bit too much. But yeah, I mean, keeping my weight on my left foot, not necessarily bumping out, but just keeping more of my weight on the left foot and not falling back and trying to, stay down and swing right through the club with your head still.
Yeah, and I'm a little concerned about next time I play because I was really practicing that left hip first move,
Right.
thinking that I kind of like how it feels. But normally for me, once I get it back, I try to just make sure I make a full turn, and then everything else takes care of itself. If I don't make a full turn, then I get armsy, then it gets really ugly. But if I stay balanced, take a full backswing, get the left shoulder underneath the chin, then usually everything else on the way through takes care of itself, as long as I try to stand up straight. If I two swing thoughts with the driver especially is full turn so the chin's under the back, and then the next swing thought is to be standing straight up to the ball, almost like there was a wall,
Right.
right there. And so those are really the two things I think about. And then if I'm trying to cut it, I usually lock my left wrist. And if I'm trying to draw it, I take a different swing path and let my wrist be loose. And that's it. But
And so there's a lot going on in your head this Wednesday. You hear that? So whoever
I'm picking teams.
whoever
too, so
you sign,
Jimmy won't be with me. Well, you got to do your best to practice on the range and play on the golf.
I'll
course.
take I'll take him. Though.
yeah.
There you go.
But I traditionally don't hit the ball very long. I'm a tall guy, and I don't hit the ball very long. And so I watch guys like Ed Boudreau's is about the same height as I am, and he's probably on average 20 yards longer than me.
It's a bigger, higher swing arc too, so he's got a lot more leverage coming with that.
Yeah,
If you
huge.
took a picture of both your swings at the top, his hands are much higher. Okay,
Right.
he's way up above.
So
compared to where
he's
you
more
are.
upright, and I'm more
Yeah,
flat.
think about like Ricky Fowler's hands are closer to his shoulders than
Yeah.
when he's down here, and Davis Love is sky high. Eddie's more like Davis Love, which can create more leverage on the way down.
And I'm more like Ricky.
Except for you make the putts. I know you would.
So
Just don't wear those pants.
yeah,
Okay?
well, or the high top
Yeah.
sneakers. So yeah, it's just something that got me thinking. Downswing sequence, and it's something that's been talked about lots of
Are you
times
6'3"?
before.
Eddie's 6'3" or 6'4"?
No, he's
isn't he?
probably got a little bit on
Yeah.
me. I'm 6'2", maybe if
We
I'm
got to
lucky.
get a tape measure for Wednesday as well.
We'll
just
go
to-
back to back.
see
Let's
who's
pick
the-
let's pick next week's teams by height.
Trying to think of who I'll get. Me and Chucky Ayers, man.
Hey, Bob
Chuck's
Fuller,
on
you
the
get
back.
Bob Fuller.
That's right.
Get the Bobcat too.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, you know what? Next week's a pretty big tournament. It's the some call it the fifth major. I don't really buy into that. There's 4 majors. I think this is the biggest tournament besides a major. I think this is bigger than the World Golf Championship events. So I don't think we need a 5th major, but this one would be probably the one that people would look towards. It's at Sawgrass, the same course every year, so you can get to know that beautiful finish in the 17th hole and a great field. Maybe the best field in golf. They take all PGA Tour winners since the previous year's players, top 125 previous season's FedEx players, top 125 current FedEx players, major champs in the last 5 years, players winners in the last 5 years, tour champ winners past 3 years, WGC winners from the past 3 years, and then for some reason the Memorial and Arnold Palmer Invitational Tournament winners since 2005 get in.
Wow.
I was thinking about that. There must have been somebody who didn't qualify who maybe won one of those tournaments a year prior, and they were like, "Hey, let's write this rule into it." But it's just, I think that's weird. And then the rest is, and you're duplicating a lot at this point. But top 50 world golf rankings, the senior players champion, winner, the Web.com Tour money leader from the previous year, and the top 10 current year FedEx Cup standings, and then the remaining positions are filled through alternates, which use the current year's FedEx Cup standings. So anyways, it's an elite event.
Yeah,
There's no local qualifying. There's no
Right.
special exemptions.
And I think that's what makes them consider it a lot of the time the 5th major, because the strength of the field is there. I don't know if they would, and also the course. I don't know if they would say that if the course changed every year, because there's just so much to talk about with that island green on 17, and 18 is as hard as it gets too for a finishing hole with the water all the way down the left side, and it's short drive too. So if you hit it dead straight, you're going to blow it into the trees. Obviously anything left's going in the water.
Right.
So I think that there's more the aura of the course that kind of beefs that up a little bit, but nobody needs it. There's 4 majors.
Yeah, but I know you're right. Knowing the hole makes it so much more enjoyable, knowing the course layout.
Right.
And with Sawgrass, since I played it so much on like Sega, I really know the whole course, 1 through 18, and the only other course probably like that I really know the whole course would be the Augusta.
Yeah.
So it's much more enjoyable to watch a golf tournament, I think, when you really are that knowledgeable about the course. It's the same thing with Oak Hill. When the major goes to Oak Hill, it's a course I probably know pretty much 1 to 18, and it's a lot more enjoyable, I think, to watch. But do you think this deserves to be on the par with any of the majors?
I don't think it'll ever be in the category of a major. It does have a tough field, there's no doubt. but there's an aura to the majors. You know, the U.S. Open, the British Open, obviously the Masters PGA as well. But there's auras about those that this doesn't have.
Yeah.
Of course, it's only been around for 30, 40 years, I guess, overall as well. 74 was the first one, so it's 42 years ago, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the 43rd playing of it then.
Yeah.
There's certainly been some very, very prominent winners. Tough golf course, tough conditions sometimes, but I don't know. It's not the Masters.
Yeah.
It's not the U.S. Open. You know, the World Golf Championships were supposed to be competitors to the majors, and they have the best field of the current standings.
Yeah.
This is a little more widespread.
Yeah.
And some of that's watered down, too, because you won an event 3 years ago doesn't mean you're on top form right now, but you get an invitation to this event, right? So I think it's number one of the rest of them.
Yeah,
and that's about where it
how I
sits.
feel.
Yeah,
But, you know,
okay.
the true test is Ricky Fowler won it last year. We're not talking about how Ricky Fowler all of a sudden got the monkey off his back.
Right.
You know, he
No.
still hasn't won a major, and until he does, he can win all the player
Yeah.
championships he wants.
Well, Adam Scott won it 12 years ago, and you know, obviously it took him another 10 years to win a major when he won the Masters. But you know, you tournament like the Memorial, that's a really solid field too,
Sure
and
is.
that's Jack's Field, and everybody knows about not Firestone, but Muirfield there. So I mean, those are top tier tournaments as
Right.
well. I do like how they've put it into May though. I like how
I
it
do
is
too.
in the
I do
summer
too.
now, because it kind of, you know, they're saying it's the 5th major and it was in March, and it's
Right.
like, no, nothing should ever be considered that before we get to Augusta. But now that they've put it there, they've got a huge tournament in April, huge tournament in May, June, July, and August.
Right.
So I like the way they moved that, and some of the tweaks they've made too have made it a little more exciting coming down the finish. But yeah, I
And I
mean,
think that golf course is drier in May than it is in March,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
makes it a better test.
yep.
Of course, you're still battling with Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Could rain all week too, but I think it's better that way.
And no matter what, the players coming down the stretch in contention for that tournament are going to feel the same type of pressure they would if they're at the Memorial or if they're at the Tour Championship, or
Right.
you know. But it's not the same as if they're trying to close out a U.S. Open or a Masters. So,
Correct. Yeah.
and you can't manufacture that.
Right.
So, anyways, great field.
Should be fun.
One thing too to remember about this tournament: 3-hole playoff. It's not sudden death. So
Right.
if we see the playoff like we did with Ricky last year, it's 3 holes.
Well, and I don't know why it took them so long to do that either with this course, because the way 16, 17,
That's
18
great
is set
for-
up, I mean, that's a great
That's a great
anytime
set.
we can get a sudden
Yeah.
death and those 3 holes, that's awesome golf.
If it wasn't for the aspect of darkness, you know, I'd like to see all tournaments go to that because I
Yeah.
think it's pretty
Sure.
cool. But so Jordan Spieth making his first trip, his first tournament since the Masters, and that's pretty interesting because we all know what happened at the Masters. So what happens if he's in contention down the stretch? You don't think that's going to be in the back of his mind when he's got a little 60-yard wedge shot over water?
No doubt.
Ricky Fowler, since winning the Players, Fowler's won 3 more times, 3 different countries, and he's top 5 in the world. Still looking for that major since that Players Championship. 4 majors have gone by, and he's over 4. McIlroy hasn't won on U.S. soil in more than a year. He did win in Dubai last November. In his ensuing 9 starts around the world, he has 6 top 10s, including a top 10 at Augusta. Comes off T4 at the Wells Fargo this past week, in which he shot a final round 66. Then, of course, you got Jason Day playing again. And so, fellas, let's make some picks. My winner pick, as I've said before, if Jason Day is in the field, that's the one I'm picking. So I'm going with Jason Day. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with you on that one. You know, he's winning about every 3rd tournament he participates in. So
I think he's the best player
Yeah.
in the world.
There's-
I think he's got the best chance to run away with any tournament.
it's hard to argue that. You know, I like Dustin Johnson, but I don't like him on this course. Same with Bubba. But I do like Phil Mickelson a lot. And he's been, again, we've talked about him all season. He's right there. He's right there. He's very consistent this year. He hasn't broken through, but I like him on this course. He's won it before.
Right.
So I'm going to go with him.
You're going with lefty.
I'm going to go with lefty.
Okay.
Just, you know, you went with I don't want to be the same. You know, it's tough to pick against Jason Day, but I'm going to go with lefty and take him to win that again, his second Players.
I'm going to go with Rory McIlroy. Plus, I don't have to put his picture up like I did the last time I picked
That's
him.
only at majors. They only do that for majors.
So
I'll get you a better picture.
he's due.
I mean, he's playing well, obviously.
Yes.
And he's been working with his coach, and it seems to be coming together, and he loves the course. He was said earlier this
Yeah.
week how much he loves the course.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about some, maybe outside the box guys here? I have the odds in front of me, and I'm looking at Rafa Cabrera Bello, who's number 29 in the world, yet his odds to win are 125 to 1. I think that's a pretty good bet. And Jamie Lovemark, 100 to 1. Just 2 weeks ago, he was right in position to win a tournament, and then tons of great players around, like Brandon Grace is another one. I almost wanted to pick Brandon Grace over Jason Day at 40 to 1. Jason Day being 11 to 1. Brandon Grace would be a good pick this week. You guys have any other guys you want to throw out there?
Well, I'm going to stay in the same line too with Justin Rose. I think he's been playing well. I know a couple of weeks ago in New Orleans wasn't so much, but he's had a good season thus far, and if he gets his putting figured out, I think he's going to be right there again this week. And the other guy I like, who's also been pretty solid, who's at 80 to 1, is Chris Kirk. I like him this week as well.
Sure.
I'm going to take Kevin Na. Kevin Na, even when he had the driver yips there a few years back, always plays well on this golf course.
Yeah, and at 80 to 1, I
Yes.
mean, and some of these golf odds, you got to ask yourself, if Kevin Na plays this tournament 80 times in a row, he's going to win it 2 or 3 times probably, right?
He's going to be up at the top. He's going to have a good chance to.
Well,
what about Sergio? I mean,
he likes this course.
he plays it well. He got it done
He's a
once.
hard guy to figure out.
Yeah,
Boy.
true. But he was in the playoff last year, and he always plays well at this course.
He does.
You got to hit it straight there. And it's like I said, 18. There's other holes. It's so tight there, and the trees are pretty thick. If you get offline a little bit, or there's plenty of water. There's those rolling mounds. You could get yourself on a bad lie.
Yeah.
But you got to be straight and be able to putt well.
Brooks Koepka 80 to 1. Man, Russell Knox 80 to 1. Danny Lee 100 to 1. I got to get off these odds.
Well, these odds are top heavy.
You got to go to another book,
right?
Yeah, really. I mean, they're assuming that probably one of the top 5-10 players in the
Yes.
world is going to win.
Yeah.
So that drives everybody else's odds up, and of course the odds react to the betting, who people are
Sure.
betting on. So these odds in particular are coming from a source in the UK.
Okay.
It's tough to find reliable golf odds online on Monday. Usually Tuesday, Wednesday they start to get posted. So
Well, if that was football, it would be out there on Monday, wouldn't it?
oh yeah, no
NFL.
doubt, you'd be ready to go.
Yeah.
So, if you want to watch this week, flipping back to NBC, Thursday, Friday, 1 to 7 p.m. on the Golf Channel. So, that's a full day of Thursday, Friday viewing. And I love it. And then 9 to 12 a.m., 9 p.m., 12 a.m., they're going to do some replay Thursday, Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday, no Golf Channel early coverage, all straight to NBC, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. So, got that nice 5 hours of coverage Saturday, Sunday at the Players at TPC Sawgrass. And, of course, next week we'll be back to talk all about it. So, I don't know if you guys caught this, but going back to Quail Hollow, but you guys see Zach Blair's disqualification?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Altered his putter, right?
Yeah, so if you didn't heard about it yet, early in Friday's second round of the Wells Fargo, Blair missed a short putt. He had a first round 75. He was a bit aggravated, and he hit himself in the head with his putter. He said he didn't even hit it that hard, which was confirmed by his caddy, Andy Martinez. But then after putting out on the hole, he realized that he bent the shaft, which is a breach of the rules. And so nobody knew it besides Blair or his caddy. Nobody would have known it, but they called himself, and they were on their on the airport on their way to Sawgrass, I guess.
Right.
Maybe he's one we should watch this week. He's got a couple extra days practicing.
So that's a harsh rule, don't you think? I mean, the rules of golf are so black and white. Don't you think in that case maybe he could have said, well, after he tapped in, oh, my putter is bent, I can't use it anymore. But the fact he hit that one stroke cost him tens of thousands of dollars.
Sure did.
Yeah.
And it just seems harsh. But on the other hand, that's one of the things about game of golf I kind of like.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Rules are the rules. There's no gray areas.
So you got to give the guy credit. He turned himself into the official just in
Yep.
case it was an issue, which it became an issue, right?
Yeah.
A lot of sports. You're not going to find a football player say, hey, I just held that guy.
That's right.
Okay.
I interfered with him.
Yeah, I mean.
Or I fouled LeBron.
He sticks his putter in his bag and moves on to the next hole and puts with it. Nobody's
he could have said he bent it on the way out of the next hole, too.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't get any advantage with what he did.
Right.
But I'm sure that
if anything was a disadvantage, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm sure that the rule is written because you could conceivably get an advantage by kicking something around and bending it back and forth and all that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the rule makes sense, but
well, he learned his lesson. Don't hit yourself in the head with your putter.
Like Woody Austin did.
Oh yeah, well, his was easy to see though.
Yeah,
bust a dent in his head. Right.
Yeah, that was a little different.
Right.
Well, yep, non-conforming. Once he bent it, Blair was disqualified. So last week we talked about Big John Daly making his debut on the senior tour. Tied for 17th. He, it looked like he might have a shot at winning on Sunday. Started with 3 consecutive birdies, made another birdie on number 6 to get within 2 shots of the lead before bogeys on 78 stalled his momentum, and then a triple bogey on number 17 dropped him right out of the top 10. Daly turned 50 on April 28th. He described his chipping and putting as awful, but his driving was amazing considering he's on the senior tour now, and he averaged 315 off the tee, almost 316, nearly 50 yards longer than the Champions Tour average, and hit 35 of 42 fairways, which so his putting and chipping must have been real bad, because if you're hitting it like that on the Champions Tour, you got a decided advantage. Yes. I mean, if he hits it like that on the PGA Tour, he's got a decided advantage, but on the Champions Tour, it's major. Right. So you'd like to think that he would win. Jesper Parnevik won this week, fired a final round 67, his first win on the PGA Tour Champions. But what do you guys think? Daly going to win some of these senior tour events coming up here?
Oh, I think he'll win several. He was rusty. I saw one of his interviews. He hadn't played much golf in the last several weeks. And at that professional level, the chipping and putting is going to be about, you got to be out there with the experience and the feel and all that. Mm-hmm. It's easy to hit a driver 300 yards at their level, and they got to putt and chip hours and hours and hours. So I wouldn't be surprised in the next month or so he really wins one.
Yeah.
Because if he's that much longer, and he's going to be hitting 3 and 4 clubs less.
And those courses are shorter than the tour courses, PGA Tour courses.
Yeah. It's just inevitable for him. We're probably going to see a couple triples and quads and others as well at some place along the way, because he's noted for that. He's fun to watch, no matter which way you want to look at it.
Oh, yeah. And then especially now on a new tour where
you just wonder how because he still have to grind, because those guys are good. And
they're good.
You just wonder how long he'll keep his interest, because he hasn't been interested in the last 10 years. He
expressed a lot of regret recently about not really focusing when he was in his prime.
Right. So he did. He lost. He almost is like he lost interest. He lost his way, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think he's back on track a little bit. But how much more is he really willing to? Take it serious and see. I think he will win some tournaments as well. I think he's gonna, because he gets hot. He can go low. I mean, we've all seen him play at his best, and it was very good. But how much longer can he sustain that?
Yeah. I think right now he's got some friends on that tour from his previous career in a regular tour. Like him and Fuzzy Zeller have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
He mentioned John Houston. Those guys are all out there from his old days, right? And maybe he wasn't hitting it off with some of the people on the younger generation who's really dominating the regular tour right now.
Right. They're all in the gym too, and that was never Daly style.
Gym,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to think, okay, so they golf, even if they 6 or 7 hours a day they spend golfing, they got a lot of idle time.
Yep.
And if you got your friends with you, it's a whole lot more fun, even though John's had some fun. Okay. But maybe, I think Fuzzy's a good mentor, and maybe that helps out.
Well, he's good for the tour. I'm sure they're loving him, having him come out on the tour now. I mean, he's a bigger story. He's more.
They didn't charge for tickets. I didn't get the attendance figures.
Oh, wow.
Everything was free.
Really?
Last week.
Well,
for that event.
That was a good idea on their part.
Yeah.
And him going into Sunday too, having a chance.
Yep.
That definitely helps things. Mm-hmm. So it'd be good to see. It makes it more interesting. That's for sure. Good to watch him.
And it'll be good to see him in the Senior U.S. Open, maybe the Senior British Open.
Right.
I like those Senior Major Championships. They pique my interest, maybe even a little more than the LPGA's majors. So,
sure.
Well, we'll see what happens with old John Daly now. One last thing here before we head out of here. Rory McIlroy recently was on an Irish talk show, and he said, he knew Spieth could rebound from one of the worst collapses golf has seen in recent years. But he said to the host, I don't really feel any sympathy for him, which, then now you got your headlines all over the place. Sure. McIlroy doesn't feel sympathy for Spieth, when really the reason he doesn't feel sympathy for him is because he's got green jackets, and McIlroy doesn't have one yet. McIlroy said he's got 2 majors and he's one of the best players in the world, and I'm sure he'll overcome it a lot of people have.
Right. He's saying that too, because if we all remember correctly, Jordan has that blow up at 12 on Sunday, and Rory had that pull hook on number 10 on Sunday with the lead with 10 holes or 9 holes to go. So he's been there too and has the same experience. So I think that's a little bit where he's drawn from as well. That hey, it's things happen in golf, and we all have those holes. The best players have them, and unfortunately, sometimes you have them the wrong time in the back 9 of a major. But
it's tough not to have sympathy for somebody that happens to, though. You don't have to be openly like, oh, so sorry they happened, but you got to say to yourself, man, that's too bad. I'd feel bad if I was him.
Right.
But do you think that maybe part of it is we just want to develop some sort of animosity between these guys? These are all millionaire young guys that are just living the dream, sure. and so I think that the media kind of wants to get some animosity going sure. there.
Yep.
So
they did it years ago with Palmer and Nicklaus. It turns out they got along very well from the very beginning, but there was and Arnie had his army, so that was probably part of it as well. But all sports want that love-hate stuff,
sure,
to spur the interest.
Well, there just hasn't been a rivalry in golf since,
right?
Jack and Arnie, or Jack and Tom, or some of those guys. I mean, what real rivalries have we had? They all tried to manufacture the Tiger Phil one, and now
the last real rivalry I think was Nicholas Watson for that brief period in the early '80s. I think that was a true rivalry. And again, I don't think it was ever a love-hate thing, but just those guys
sure.
were both, at least that's what I remember.
Yeah.
And since then, I don't. Vijay Singh, Tiger Woods, maybe for a brief period.
Yeah.
About that 1 year.
When Vijay rolled into number 1 and took it from Tiger.
How long has it got to be to make it a rivalry?
Right.
Yeah, I think it needs to be more than 1 year.
1 win, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but there's a potential for tons of rivalries now. Whether it's Day McIlroy or Spieth Fowler, whatever it would be, it's out there.
They're all good buddies.
They better get going. Right. It's been quiet.
Yeah. Well, major number 2 is just around the corner in June. Then a couple more majors, the Players this week, and and I think that the Tour FedEx Cup playoffs just keep getting better and better. So that's something that really keeps me interested heading. And then the Olympics this year, which we'll see how that goes.
See who's in that, but that's still going to be interesting. If you like golf, that's going to be fun to watch, I think.
Well, we really got to move out of here now as we are running out of time. So let me give you the answer to our trivia question this week, which was, where is it here? Oh, yeah. Who won the inaugural Players' Championship in 1974? What course hosted the event? It was Jack Nicklaus over J.C. Snead at the Atlanta Country Club. And then it moved to Sawgrass, TPC Sawgrass in 1982. So, fellas, enjoyed talking golf with you again this week. And Brownie be back next week to recap the players with
Thanks
us.
Thanks for having me. Yep.
And Rhett, you're not going to you're not going to
I'm here all
Arizona or anything.
No traveling until the end of August. So I'll be here every week.
Well,
the Olympics.
Yeah, going to Rio.
That would be nice. No, Outer Banks, but I'll maybe do a golf review there too.
Well, thanks for spending time with us on the GolfJ.com podcast. Connect with us online on Twitter at the GolfJ, Instagram at the _GolfJ, and search for GolfJ on Facebook. All of our episodes in the best of the worldwide of I always say that wrong. All of our episodes in the best of the wide world of golf on the web can be found at golfj.com. We'll be back next Monday night at 9 o'clock. Until then, my friends, hit 'em long, not often.
golfj.com.